Fitness motivation has become a god, not metaphorically, literally, because anything that decides whether you train, eat well, rest, or quit has taken the highest place in your life. Modern fitness culture has turned motivation into an idol we obey, an idol we wait on, an idol we sacrifice consistency to. We've been taught that motivation is the key to fitness success, that inspiration is the fuel, that if we could just feel fired up enough, disciplined enough, locked in enough, then we would finally become the new us. That is a lie. When motivation disappears, everything collapses. That is why most fitness plans die in January. That is why New Year's resolutions fail. That is why people keep starting over instead of moving forward. You did not fail because you lacked discipline. You failed because you built your fitness life on a feeling and then worshiped it. Motivation was never meant to be in charge. It was never meant to rule your body, your habits, or your worth. When fitness becomes your God, your body becomes the altar, and the sacrifices never end. That is the real problem with fitness motivation culture. In this video, we're going to break this down piece by piece. We're going to look at how fitness motivation became an idol, why New Year's resolutions collapse every January, and what actually has to replace motivation if you want consistency that lasts. I'm going to walk you through the deeper reasons this keeps failing. Not hype, not hacks, but a framework that treats the body with dignity, not obsession. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why fitness doesn't need more motivation. It needs truth, it needs order, and it needs meaning. Now, if this is your first time here, I want to welcome you to the channel. My name is Roxy Beckles. I've been coaching women in fitness and body transformation for over 2 decades, from everyday women to competitive athletes. This is Theology of Fitness. Here we center God in the fitness journey and reject the idea that your body is just a project or a performance. If that resonates with you, make sure that you subscribe to the channel right now so that you can stay connected as we go deeper into this series. Now let's talk about what an idol actually is. An idol is not just a statue or something ancient people bowed down to. An idol is anything you give ultimate authority to, anything that decides your actions, anything that determines your worth, anything you obey before truth. That is how motivation becomes an idol in fitness. When you only train if you feel motivated, motivation is in charge. When you only eat well if you feel inspired, motivation is in charge. When you quit the moment the feeling fades, motivation was never just a tool, it was the authority. And here's the problem with idols. They promise life, but they demand constant sacrifice, more effort, more pressure, more self-control, more proving. Fitness motivation culture teaches you to offer your body over and over again on that altar. Grind harder, push through, ignore limits, earn your worth. But an idol never gives back what it takes. That's why people burn out. That's why discipline turns into punishment. That's why fitness stops being about care and starts feeling like control. Motivation was meant to support discipline, not replace truth. Once it takes the throne, everything becomes unstable. And that instability always shows up the same way. Why feelings were never meant to lead. Feelings were never meant to be in charge of your life. They are real, they matter, but they are not reliable leaders. When feelings take the lead, consistency, it collapses because feelings change with sleep, stress, hormones, workload, disappointment, and boredom. Modern fitness culture tells you to trust how you feel, to follow motivation, to wait until you're inspired. But a life built on feeling will always be unstable. Discipline cannot be built on emotions. Freedom cannot be sustained by mood, and care for the body cannot depend on whether today feels exciting or hard. When motivation leads, action becomes conditional. And anything conditional eventually disappears. This is why people don't just quit workouts, they quit themselves. Not because they're weak, but because they were taught to let emotion decide what truth already made clear. Feelings were meant to follow action, not command it. When that order is reversed, everything fractures when the body becomes raw material. So when motivation becomes the authority, the body stops being treated like a gift and starts being treated like raw material. Something to shape, something to hack, something to dominate, something to redesign according to your will. This is where fitness quietly crosses a line. The body becomes a project instead of a person, a product instead of a gift, a thing you own instead of something you are. That mindset sounds empowering on the surface, but it always leads to control, anxiety, and dissatisfaction. Because if your body is just raw material, it never gets to rest, never gets to be enough, and never gets to say no. Motivation thrives in this environment. It fuels constant comparison, constant optimization, constant pressure to become someone else. And once you see your body this way, fitness is no longer about care. It becomes about mastery. And mastery without meaning, it always turns cruel. Freedom without truth always turns into slavery. You see, fitness motivation promises freedom. Freedom from limits, freedom from weakness, freedom from discipline that feels restrictive. But when freedom is defined by doing whatever you want, whenever you feel like it, it doesn't stay free for long because something still has to be in charge. And when truth is removed, feelings step in to fill the gap. That is how people become enslaved to numbers, the scale, to the mirror, to macros, to metrics. What starts as empowerment slowly becomes pressure. What starts as discipline turns into fear of falling off. And what starts with care and concern for your health becomes unrelenting control. This is the paradox. The more you chase freedom through motivation, the more trapped you feel. The more you try to command your body, the less peace you have inside it. True freedom doesn't come from following every feeling. It comes from ordering your life around what is actually good. And fitness that isn't rooted in truth will always end up owning you instead of serving you. The lie of the new year, new you. I gotta admit, that phrase sounds so helpful, but underneath, it is a quiet rejection of who you already are. New year, new you tells you that the current version of yourself isn't worthy of care, that discipline belongs to a future body, that consistency should wait until motivation strikes. It forces you to look at every flaw and see every part of yourself as an imperfection. It doesn't allow you to appreciate where you are in the moment as you look to the future that you are trying to become. So every January, people try to reinvent themselves instead of forming themselves. They chase a fantasy version of who they think they should be. And when reality shows up, stress, fatigue, boredom, setbacks, that fantasy collapses. This is why resolutions don't fail slowly. They fail suddenly because you can't build a real life on an imagined self. Fitness rooted in reinvention always burns out. Fitness rooted in formation, now that endures. The problem isn't that people don't want to change. The problem is that they've been taught to change the wrong way when fitness tries to save you. Now, let's be really clear. Most people don't turn fitness into an idol on purpose. They do it because they're looking for relief from insecurities, relief from chaos, relief from feeling out of control of their bodies, feeling out of shape, knowing that they need to make changes. So fitness becomes the thing that promises redemption. Once I lose the weight, I'll feel at peace. Once I look a certain way, I'll finally be confident. Once I hit that goal, I'll be enough. And that's when fitness stops being a practice and starts acting like a savior. But no amount of training can carry the weight of your identity. No routine can give you worth. No transformation can fix what was never a physical problem. When fitness is asked to save you, it will exhaust you because it can never deliver what only God can give. Fitness is a good servant, but it makes a terrible God. Why motivation always fails at the exact same point. A motivation doesn't disappear randomly. It fades the moment life stops cooperating. When stress rises, when progress slows, when the scale stalls, when boredom sets in. That's because motivation is reactive. It feeds on novelty, excitement, visible reward. The moment the payoff is delayed, motivation withdraws. It hightails out of there. This is why people don't quit at the beginning. They quit in the middle. They quit when the work gets quiet, when no one is clapping, when the results aren't obvious, when discipline becomes ordinary. Motivation cannot survive the ordinary, but transformation lives there. If your fitness plan depends on constant emotional fuel, it's guaranteed to fail. And not because you're inconsistent, but because the system was never built for real life. Real change requires something sturdier than a feeling. What actually has to replace motivation? Okay, so if motivation can't lead, something else has to, right? Not hype, not pressure, not punishment disguised as discipline either. What replaces motivation, though, is something I said earlier: formation. Formation means you act because it is good, not because it feels good. You show up because you decided who you are, not because you're chasing a mood. You care for your body because it has dignity, not because you're trying to earn worth. This is where fitness becomes stable. Training turns into stewardship. Discipline turns into fidelity. Consistency turns into trust between you and your body. Motivation still shows up, but it no longer sits on the throne. It becomes a companion, not a commander. And when formation leads, fitness stops collapsing every January, reordering fitness around what is true. All right, so if you've been stuck in this cycle of starting over, this is your way out. It's not a new plan, and it's not a new challenge. And no, it is absolutely not a louder motivational speech. It's reordering. When fitness is ordered towards truth, it becomes sane. When the body is treated with dignity, discipline becomes humane. When God is put back at the center, fitness becomes an act of care instead of control. You don't need more motivation. You need a foundation that doesn't disappear when feelings change. And this is the work of Theology of Fitness: not worshiping the body, not neglecting it, but training it in truth so that way you can serve what actually matters. This is where fitness stops being fragile and starts becoming faithful. To go deeper in learning about how spiritual fitness is a crucial road in your transformation journey, I want you to go ahead and check out this next video right over here. I'll see you over there.